Think you might ever like to know what's going on in your client's unconscious awareness before they do? Might be interesting. If you had a way of identifying what somebody else is doing in their head, in terms of, are they remembering something now? Or are they creating something? If you had a way of telling the person's accessing a memory, or they're imagining something, and you would know that without them saying a thing, how do you think that might be useful to you? Crazy example would be, where were you on Saturday night? And you're able to calibrate to them creating an answer, not remembering it. Oops. Well, here's a skill that you could use in forensics. Okay? Where were you at the time of the crime? And you're able to calibrate to the client's creating an answer, as opposed to remembering. Because if they're creating an answer, you know it's not true. Or your clients, I don't know about you, but I sometimes get those clients who come and I say, right, what would you like to work through? Well, my friend referred me. I don't have a single issue in the world. But you've booked the session, you've paid up front. No. I always know that there's a deeper reason that's brought them here. So I say, well, if you had any challenges or issues that you'd like to work through, what might one example be? And they go, no, there's nothing. There is something. How do I know? I've calibrated to them accessing the remembered part of the brain, so to speak, of the mind, through observing what their eyes do. The eyes are not only the windows to your soul, they're the windows to everything you do unconsciously. And you can learn how to tell through looking in somebody's eyes what kinds of information they're processing internally. You're helping the client to elicit a goal, all right? Something they'd like to achieve or work towards in their life. And as you ask them, what goal would you like to achieve? You see their eyes going to remembered. It's not there. What they're doing is they're digging up old stuff. They're recreating the wheel. They're thinking about what they don't want as opposed to what they do want, and that's why they keep getting what they don't want. So if you're helping your client to elicit a desired goal, to create a future that they'd like you to help them to achieve through the hypnotherapy, you want to be able to calibrate that the eyes are accessing the create or construct eye accessing cue. Because if it's not, they're just thinking about more of the old stuff, which is actually what they're trying to get away from. And we need to help them to have a more appropriate move towards motivation strategy. That's what we call it in NLP. There's two types of motivation strategies. You can motivate a donkey in two ways, right? With the stick and the carrot. It's either moving away from the stick that's beating it on the backside, or it's moving towards the carrot that it wants. And the same thing applies in NLP or in life. You're either motivated more by what you don't want or by what you do want. People who are motivated by what they don't want are usually stressed and unhappy and don't get fulfilling results. And even if they do get fulfilling results, let's say lots of money in one area of their life, they pay a high price for it, health-wise and relationship-wise perhaps, because they're working so hard at it. People who have the motivation strategy of moving towards the things that they do like, they're happier people, okay? They wake up every day with a positive internal representation about the things they'd like to move towards, and they're inspired to go for it. Okay, so I'm always helping clients at the end of a session to make sure that when they leave, they're in a resourceful state and they're moving towards a desired goal, and they're no longer, as a default setting, focusing on what they don't want. Do you know that old Walt Disney was bankrupt 3 times? Well, as the story goes, he was born on the other side of the railway tracks, in poverty. And he became creative with his drawing and cartooning as a strategy to avoid being poor. And he started making lots of money with his drawings. Okay, and he started building his empire. And if this is where he's motivated, this is what he doesn't want. Okay, he's moving away from this through all his creativity. So what's he doing? He's moving forwards. Away from that. What's running in the background of his awareness all the time at the unconscious level? Pictures of poverty, pictures of what he doesn't want. That's motivating him. And so he's doing well, and he's building his empire, and he's so far away from his motivation now. Walt Disney is massive, right? But look back how far away that motivation is. What does he have to do? What does the unconscious mind attract into his life? People and circumstances that cause him to go bankrupt. So that he falls all the way back to his original, where he's really motivated. Whoa, don't want that. Now he's pumped again. And so he's getting creative, he's coming up with ideas, and he's building his empire 3 times over. Because he hadn't learned to change his motivation strategy. Okay, so eye accessing cues can tell you about what people are doing to motivate themselves as well. Eye accessing cues are your way to tell what's happening in your client's unconscious mind before they become consciously aware of it. And probably one of the major interests to you with regards to that should be the fact that you can know what they're doing inside their heads that is a genuine expression of their reality when what they tell you is not in alignment with that. In other words, client says, yeah, no, that thing's not a problem anymore, that's dealt with. And their eyes are going to the past. They're still calling up a representation of the past. When, if it's dealt with, they should be focusing on something new and positive, which is not the remembered side, rather the constructed side. So what's the remembered side and constructed side? How can we really know what's going on inside the head of another through looking at their eyes? Let me teach that to you. So, I'll start by saying that this is just an example of what you can expect to see in people's eyes when you're asking them questions and guiding them through processes. Most people, it's a vast generalization, but still, most people have a tendency to look to the left when they are recalling things, and thereby look to the right when they are creating or imagining things in their mind. Okay. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. But even in our society where we're trained to keep eye contact, people's eyes dart around and then they come back to you. Did you think they were rude? Why, they're not keeping eye contact. In other cultures, it's rude to keep eye contact. Okay.
Yeah, they couldn't look me in the eye when I was talking to them.
How rude. Okay. From today on, you will have more empathy for such people because you're going to recognize what they have to do in order to even associate with what you're communicating, in order to identify and make sense of it, and in order to give you an answer. Where do they go to get those answers? Okay? Because their eyes tell you what they're doing. Now, if I ask you a question and I blink and you give me an answer and I don't see your eyes move, it's probably because they moved in the time that I blinked and I missed it, because that's how fast eye accessing cues can happen. If I ask you about what you ate for lunch, you don't have to go very far to access that memory, do you? Because it's right there. It was just a little while ago. But if I ask you, what was the color of the front door of the very first home you ever lived in? Yep. You might have to go searching a bit. And when you go searching, then your eye accessing cues are much more animated. I'm able to see them more easily. Okay. So most people will go to the left when I ask them to remember something, although a lot of people go to the right. And one's not better than the other. But people who go to the right to remembered do it all reversed. Now in NLP, we break that down into slightly more specific details. Coming back to my example of this person who goes to their left. It's their left, okay? When we're going to the left and up, to recall. We're calling that visual recall. It means they're calling up a picture of something they remember from the past. Now my client says to me, no, I don't know why I'm here, or I don't have any issues. But when I asked them, they went straight to visual recall. What do I know straight away? They do remember something, they're not yet consciously aware of it, and it's a picture. In which case I could respond with, well, if there was a picture of something in your past, what may it be? And that just kind of encourages it out of unconscious awareness and more into conscious awareness. Okay? If I ask them, what was your favorite song when you were 10 years old? The expectation is that they will look to their left, if it's somebody who goes to the left for recall, at about ear level to access the remembered sound. So let's just go up here now. Visual construct. If I said to the person, by the way, if you painted your current front door red and gave it purple polka dots that flashed, what would that look like? They've probably never imagined that before, so they have to create the picture. In which case, I'm expecting their eyes to go up, right, if it is somebody who goes to the right, to construct. And if I said, by the way, what's your current favorite song? And they tell me, great. What would that sound like if it was sung by Goofy underwater? They've probably never heard it like that before. So they have to imagine, they have to create it. In which case, the expectation is they will go to the right at about ear level to create the sound inside their heads. Because if I go left, I know where they go to recall, and it's always like that. It doesn't change. In every situation, in every context of their life, that's the case. So my client sitting with me in the session, I've elicited their eye accessing cues through the conversation we had when they first arrived. How are you today? What did you do yesterday? Where were you last Christmas? What's your favorite hobby? What was your favorite thing to do when you were a kid? If they go to the left to recall, you can rest assured they go to the right to construct. You don't have to ask questions about imagining anything. They will go there. Now let's look at these two. If I ask the person to imagine sticking their hand inside a bucket of ice water, the expectation for this example is that the person will look down to their right, accessing kinesthetic. That's what the K is for. And if I ask the person to do some maths, something logic, something analytical inside their head, a left brain function activity, or something relating to internal dialogue, what do you say to yourself when somebody else asks you? Whenever they're accessing internal dialogue or computing something on a rational level, I expect to see their eyes going down to the left, in my example, or reversed, as with many people. Okay. What ought to be interesting to you at this stage is just, do they go left or right when I ask them some questions? What would it mean if their eyes were going all over the place?
You're smoking something.
I think you'll just have a glazed look, huh? It means one of two things. The first thing you can assume is they don't know how to answer the question and they're looking for the answer within. And the other thing is you've asked them a question that is confusing and they are looking to make meaning out of the question. And you've elicited what we call a trans-derivational search, a TDS in NLP. Later on, when we get to eliciting the strategies of the problems that clients are presenting, we have to be able to elicit the precise trigger of that problem state strategy in order to work accurately with that client. And how do you elicit the trigger? Their eyes tell you what the trigger of the problem is. So clients will define their problems to you, but the very first thing that tells you what the catalyst of that problem is the eyes. Eye accessing cues are your way to tell what's happening in your client's unconscious mind before they become consciously aware of it.